Chapter 4. Testimonies and Contradictions. By late morning, the ballroom had been cleared of its glitter, but the manor's hush felt heavier than the night before. Inspector Reed took the great oak chair beneath the family portraits. Miss Marple sat a little apart by the window, knitting in her lap, eyes bright and watchful. One by one, the household filed in to give their accounts of the masquerade and of the death that ended it. For the record, the victim was named at last. Julian Harrow, Lady Helena's financial advisor and a frequent guest at Ashcroft. He had been found at the foot of the West Library staircase just after midnight. His mask shattered, a wineglass broken nearby, candlelight guttering in a draught that should not have been there. Lady Helena stood very straight, her black velvet still immaculate. "I retired early," she said, voice cool. "At 11:45. Mr. Harrow came to bid me good night in the blue drawing room at 11:30. Inspector Reed glanced at his notebook. "And after that?" "I went up to my room. I heard the clock strike 12. The scream came, moments later." She paused. "I did not go down. The guests were in panic. Mr. Graves went." Miss Marple's needles clicked softly. "Your ladyship, the silver travel candlestick from your room. Was it in use last night?" Helena did not blink. "No, why?" "Because one silver candlestick, of the portable sort, was found on the gallery outside the West Library. A draught had nearly snuffed it." Miss Marple's tone was mild. "Curious, when all fixed sconces were already lit." Helena's lips pressed together. "Many guests carried candles. I cannot answer for them." "Of course," Miss Marple murmured, and made a neat knot in her yarn. Contradiction noted. The blue drawing room's footman had already told the inspector that Lady Helena left the party not at 11:45, but nearer 12, when the first course of champagne was brought back for the midnight toast. And the candlestick's crest was Ashcroft's, worn on the base exactly as the set in Helena's room. Edward Ashcroft Edward came in like a man about to argue his way through a locked door. "I was in the billiards room from 11:50 to 12:10 with Cousin Richard. If this is about money, Harrow and I discussed nothing last night." "Nothing?" Reed asked. "No dispute in the gallery?" Edward bristled. "We spoke. Men do. He advised Mother to place the remainder of Father's investments into bonds. I told him to keep out of family affairs." Miss Marple smiled pleasantly. "And the small key in your waistcoat, Mr. Ashcroft? To what does it belong?" His hand went to his pocket involuntarily. "A cabinet. Mine." "Not the West Library ledger cupboard?" she asked as if idly. "The one Mr. Harrow sometimes used for balance sheets? The cupboard was locked at 11 but open at midnight. The key to it is a little rather old-fashioned thing. So like yours." Color rose up Edward's neck. "Plenty of keys in this house, Miss Marple." Contradiction noted. The underfootman swore Edward had asked for the billiards lamp to be trimmed at 11:48, after which he was seen crossing the west landing. A smear of the same dark billiard chalk lay, faint but present, on the stair baluster near where Harrow fell. Beatrice Ashcroft. Beatrice looked as if she had not slept. Her perfume was a whisper of violets. Her hands shook. "I went to the loggia for air," she said. "The masks made me faint. I heard a glass break. Then there were shouts." "Alone?" asked Reed. Her eyes flicked toward the door. "Miss Whitfield accompanied me. We returned together." Miss Marple's gaze drifted to the hem of Beatrice's gown. "Such lovely silk," she said kindly. "Though the hem caught soot last night. Coal soot, not garden mud. The loggia opens to the rose lawn. No coal there. But the service stairs from the West Library, those can leave a very particular smudge." Beatrice's throat worked. "I must have brushed against something on the way back." "And the note?" Miss Marple asked gently. "The one tucked into the atlas in the West Library. Midnight, come alone. Written in a feminine hand." Beatrice's fingers nodded. "I didn't write..." She stopped herself. "I didn't meet anyone." Contradiction noted. The governess had already hinted Beatrice received a letter earlier in the evening and went white reading it. Also, the coal soot on Beatrice's hem matched a smear on the service stair rail. Richard Fairfax. Richard strolled in with his usual lazy charm. I was with Edward at billiards. Ask him. We smoked. We argued about a wager. We missed the midnight toast. Entirely harmless. Inspector Reed tapped his pencil. Harmless, yet you were seen near the West Library door at 5 to 12. Richard smiled. Looking for a quiet corner. The music gave me a headache. Miss Marple's voice was airy. And the tiny scratch on your signet ring, so like the bright nick on the west stair baluster. One imagines a ring scraping wood when a gentleman grips a rail very hard. He spread his hands. Perhaps I stumbled. Are we to hang men for clumsiness? Not at all, Miss Marple said. Only we must be clear which gentleman stumbled and where. Your boots, Mr. Fairfax, show a flake of sealing wax caught in the welt. The same dark red wax that sealed Lady Helena's correspondence. One clump of it was trodden at the head of the west stair. Richard's smile thinned. You are very observant, Miss Marple. Contradiction noted. The maid who tends the blue drawing room claimed Richard slipped in at 11:40 when Helena and Harrow were alone. He denied it. Too quickly. Miss Clara Whitfield Clara, the governess, folded her hands tightly. I was with Miss Beatrice on the loggia. We returned when the scream sounded. Reed raised an eyebrow. You left the ballroom together? We did. Miss Marple's tone was soft. Forgive me, Miss Whitfield, but you carry a spot of wax on your sleeve. The dark red variety used on Ashcroft's private letters. She glanced at the governess's pocket. And your pencil, for classroom use, leaves a rigid, upright hand. The note in the atlas was written in a different looping hand. Not yours. But your pocket also holds a broken scrap from a smaller note. Not in writing. Midnight. Curious, is it not, that such a fragment should be in your care if you were only on the loggia? Clara flushed. Miss Beatrice showed me a message she had received. I urged her to ignore it. She would not tell me from whom. And you followed her? Miss Marple asked. I waited at the gallery corner, Clara admitted, voice low. If she met someone, I intended to be close. Contradiction clarified. Clara had indeed been near the West Library. She had not, however, written the atlas note. Her loyalty lay with Beatrice, but her fear was real. Mr. Graves, the butler Graves, stood like a monument. The candles were trimmed at 11. The sconces along the west landing burned for exactly an hour at that height. Yet one was nearly out at midnight, Reed said. Draft? There is no draft, Graves said. Biassy. Not there. Miss Marple lifted her head. Unless the window latch was slipped, she said. It was last night, the left casement. One can open it a finger's width and make a very pretty trick of a guttering flame. Graves's granite face betrayed surprise. I closed it at 11. You did, Miss Marple agreed. But someone reopened it, and someone else, earlier, polished 1 foot of the stair rail. A quick rub with beeswax, the sort used on furniture, leaves a slick invisible to the eye, especially under low light. There is a small swirl upon the wood, where a hurried cloth moved. It sits halfway down the run, exactly where a man, descending, would shift his weight. The butler bowed his head. I know nothing of that, madam. Contradiction noted. Beeswax had been fetched from the still room after 11 by a junior maid for a spill on a console. No such spill was found. The shape of a method. When the door closed behind Graves, Inspector Reed exhaled. Well? Miss Marple's knitting lay folded in her lap. Her voice when she spoke was almost tender. The killer did not push Mr. Harrow outright. That would mark the body in ways we do not see. Instead, they arranged a fall. She held up one finger. First, they lured him. The atlas note, midnight, come alone. A meeting he would keep, for the note promised something he wanted. Perhaps a document, perhaps a secret, perhaps a threat. Second, they set the stage. A casement unlatched to coax a draft. One sconce candle lowered too far, so its wick would shrink faster, and a smear of beeswax on the rail where the hand instinctively reaches. In dim, failing light, a misstep is easy to craft. Third, they chose their vantage. The gallery above, the service stairmouth, the library door ajar, each a point from which to watch without being seen. And they left what they could not help leaving. Soot on a hem, chalk on a rail, sealing wax on a boot, a candlestick of a kind that ought never to have left its owner's room. Reed frowned. But who? Miss Marple's eyes were kind. The plan belongs to a mind that knows the house intimately and fears what Mr. Harrow could do. Someone who could fetch beeswax without question, who could touch the blue drawing room letters, who could steer a nervous girl to or from a midnight meeting, and who, if challenged, would say they had retired, or played billiards, or taken the air. She rose, smoothing her skirt. We are very close, Inspector. One more piece and the pattern will not merely be seen. It will be obvious. Reed shut his notebook. And the piece? The why, Miss Marple said gently. Mr. Harrow was more than a guest. He was a lever. Whoever set the scene needed him to fall because a paper, an account, a clause, a name, was about to unseat them. She glanced toward the west corridor where the light pooled in a quiet square of floorboards. We shall return to the library tonight, in the same light, with the same candles, and we shall watch how people move when they believe no one is watching. Outside, the clouds began to gather again over Ashcroft's lawns, as if the sky itself prepared for the staging of a truth that would tolerate no more masks.